you were a kid, do you remember asking for a haunted doll for Christmas? Because me neither. But that's what I got. I got a My Twin doll for Christmas. And this isn't a Barbie. No, this isn't an American Girl doll. No way. This is a specialty doll that you got out of a catalog. I know, a catalog, I know. And you send in a picture of you and they make it look just like you, even down to the last little birthmark. And then you can get matching outfits and accessories, the whole 9 yards. But little did I know that this was going to be a trauma that I would never forget, because I was just a kid. I was so excited for this little doll. I wanted to have the matching outfits. I was just a little girly girl, you know? I just wanted the doll. And she came just in time for Christmas. And so I'm opening the box and she's got on these cute little pajamas and they match my pajamas and she's so stinking cute. It was the best day ever. And Christmas night, she slept in bed with me. Mind you, warning, this is a nightmare of a 2nd grader. I had never seen Chucky. It still haunts me to today. I don't know why I had this dream. And in my dream, I was outside, but it was winter time. So I was like, okay, I gotta go back into the house. So I go up to the front door only to find it's already partially opened. And when I push open the door, push, 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 and it's creaking open, do you know what I saw? I saw so much blood. I saw so much gore. There was furniture pieces all over the place. The living room was a total disaster. And then sitting in the middle of the living room was this doll, and she was staring right at me. And in her hand, she was holding a knife. This was a serrated bread knife, and she was spotless, but this knife was covered in gore. It was covered in blood. It was covered in all of the things that we're made of. And then just around the corner on the kitchen floor, I could see one of those arms laying limp that you'd see in a movie, just laying on the linoleum. And I couldn't scream and I couldn't move. And when I finally woke up out of this dream, the doll was not in bed with me. No, and it wasn't right next to the bed. No, it was close to the door on the other side of the room, just laying in the doorway. And what I couldn't figure out was how it had gotten so far. How did it get so far away from me? And the next day I threw such a fit about it and told my mom all about the dream. And she's like, okay. I know we just spent all of this money, but clearly you don't care about that. And she boxes up all of the clothes, the doll, all of it. We had it less than 24 hours opened, and we shipped it off. And we didn't send it back to the manufacturer. No. We sent it to my cousin in a different state. And I never saw it again. But I think about it still, because she still might be out there somewhere. So like if you're going to an estate sale, I don't know, just be careful. You're not afraid of dolls, right?
Did any of you have this type of like Barbie head that you can style growing up? If you have one, or maybe your kid has one now, yeah, don't listen to this story. So this happened back in the 80s when this lady was a little girl. She was the only girl in the family. She had 2 older brothers. She mentions how her bedroom was right across from her brother's bedroom, so the doors faced each other. Her brothers did share a room while she had her own bedroom. Also, it's important to mention that the bedrooms didn't have doors. What they would do is put curtains where the door should be. I remember having a curtain on my door once, but that was only because my mom took the door. She took the door to my room. Anyway, she played with this doll head so much that every night when she would go to bed, her mom would pick up that doll head and put it on top of her dresser so that she doesn't play with it all night in bed. So there was one night when the younger brother woke everybody up in that household because he was crying uncontrollably. Obviously, the parents were worried. They ran straight to the bedroom, and when they got there, they asked him what was wrong, why is he crying? And he told them that when he was laying in bed trying to go to sleep, he saw when that Barbie head peeked into his bed. Why did I get chills? The Barbie head peeked into his bedroom from the sister's room. He described it almost as if somebody was holding that Barbie head and just inclined it this way. So I guess like literally, I can't even do the motion. I just scared myself. Anyway, he described it as if like somebody had grabbed that head and inclined it this way, so it looked like it was peeking, which obviously is impossible for that doll to do because it would have fallen. It's only like a head. As he's crying, he's like, she was staring at me almost like she knew I was awake, and she peeked into the room. And it was basically impossible for someone to have hidden behind that Barbie to incline her, because again, she was up against that dresser. Even if it was a little sister, she would have been visible from his bedroom. And to no one's surprise, the parents did not believe him. His older brother that also slept in that bedroom did not believe him either. However, with time, that older brother started to believe because some weird shit happened to him as well. So there was one night where the older brother couldn't fall asleep, and something just told him to look towards his little sister's door. He saw the same thing that his brother claimed to have seen, which is that doll head kind of, inclined looking towards the bedroom. But it wasn't just that. It was not just that. He stared back at her because he wanted to make sure, like, is somebody holding holding her? Is she really moving? Is it me? And when he is staring at this Barbie's head, he said that the Barbie started making faces at him. He described it as like mocking faces, that like sticking her tongue out at him and doing like silly faces. Bro, that would have scared the I wake up, I turn, I look at my Barbie. The Barbie's like, that's the only thing I could think of. What other faces could she have done? What other faces? That would have scared me. That would have been it. Now that I think of it, that bitch has no arms. You have no arms, bitch. I'm gonna fuck you up. Okay, 34-year-old Letty would have fucked her up, but like 12-year-old Letty would have been dying of a heart attack. He also mentions how her mouth would move in like weird angles, almost as if she was trying to say something to him. And by that point, the little brother had also seen those facial expressions that Barbie was making as well. And of course, the older brother went and told his parents. He wanted to tell them that the little brother was not lying. He also saw that doll moving and making facial expressions, and of course, they didn't believe them. On the contrary, they got in trouble for making these things up. They basically told them, you better not come to us and tell us that Barbie's moving again or you'll be in big trouble. What's the punishment? I get to sleep in the room with you? Okay, bitch, punish me. What's the punishment? You're taking me to sleep in a new home? Take me right now. So the parents didn't believe them until one night where the dad stayed up by himself, and when he was walking down the hallway, he felt as if somebody was behind him. Immediately, he turns around to look, and he could have sworn that he saw something peeking from on top of a dresser. The dad could have sworn that he thought it was that doll head that he saw move. You're a liar, you're making things up, and if you bring this up again, you're gonna be in big trouble, mister. Obviously, it was that moment where it finally scared the dad, where the family decided to get rid of this doll head. So where they lived, the trash people only came on Tuesdays and Saturdays, so they had left the trash and that doll head out there, and it wasn't trash day, so it was just gonna sit out there until the trash came. So while the doll was still outside in the trash, their grandmother came for a visit, and as she was passing by the trash, she saw this like perfectly clean and new doll head on top of the trash can. She pulled it out and asked them why they were gonna throw it away, and her son, the dad, didn't want to tell her why, so he just said it was because the daughter didn't want to play with the doll anymore. So the grandmother decided that she was gonna take it to her home because she had this bedroom that she called the old doll room, and she basically had a whole collection of dolls. She cleaned that doll head up and put it inside of that room. And surprise, surprise, after she put that doll head into that bedroom, weird sounds would start coming from that room. The lady that's telling us the story, obviously that was her doll, and she said that she personally never heard any noise in her grandmother's room where that doll was, but her grandmother and her aunt did hear noises coming from there. She explains that her cousins would also say that they would hear weird sounds coming from that room. They would spend the night at the grandmother's home, and while they were sleeping, they could almost hear like plastic bumping into things in that room. However, they were already scared of that room altogether since there's like old dolls all in there, and they did not dare to go in there and figure out what that noise was. With time, the mom of the girl was like, I cannot not tell them why we got rid of that doll. So she did end up telling the grandmother and the aunt why they got rid of the doll, and obviously they were like, oh my god, so it has to be that doll that's making those noises in that room. However, the grandmother decided not to get rid of that doll. She obviously did believe in the paranormal, but she was not about to be scared of it, so she decided that she was going to keep it in her house so that no one else has to deal with this doll. By the way, the grandmother lived by herself in that house, so yeah, that lady was not scared of the doll. That doll ended up staying with her until her final days, and the grandmother passed away. So grandmother passed away and left that house to her aunt, and her aunt, first day, took all of the grandmother's collection, including that doll head, and basically got rid of everything. She says that the aunt never told anybody what she did with it. They have not seen that doll head ever since. Yeah, that is a crazy fucking story. I feel like I would die if I were to see that Barbie head just like blah, making crazy ass faces at me. But what do you guys think?
The email that I got for tonight's True Scary Story is about a girl who said that she got possessed because of her Raggedy Ann doll and had to have an exorcism. She does go into detail about the exorcism, so please be prepared for that. Tonight's submitter's name is Allie, and she did say I could use her real name and tag her, so she will be tagged in the description. By the way, I did tell a longer version of this tonight, so please put 2 and 2 together. Okay, thanks. Allie was about 10 or 11 years old. She had a Raggedy Ann doll, and she loved this doll. She named it Sam. She did everything with it. She slept with it. She took it on walks. She talked to it like it was a person, just like any other kid would with a doll at that age. One night, Allie was watching a scary movie with her family, and she fell asleep and she had a nightmare, and in her nightmare she was up in her bed and she looked over at the corner of her closet and she saw something in the corner of her closet. She saw this tall, dark figure with a top hat on. It was a man who was speaking to her, but she couldn't understand what he was saying. She could only describe the sound of his voice as a deep man's voice. So she's leaning in, trying to understand what he's saying, and it feels like forever that she can't understand what he's saying, and finally she does, and she hears what he says. He's saying to unalive her family, that God would want her to unalive her family, and that if she does this, that she can join him, and that she would be a beautiful asset to him. As soon as she realized what he was saying, she tried to scream as loud as she could, but nothing was coming out. She couldn't scream, and then suddenly she was being held down. At first she didn't know what she was being held down by, but then she looked up and she realized that he was the one holding her down, and then he got right in her face and whispered, "It's okay, it'll be over soon." And just like that, she wakes up. But when she wakes up, she's suddenly in her room. Her parents are gone. They must have brought her up to her room. And she realizes something is on top of her. Something is holding her down again. And when she looks up, she realizes that it's her doll. It's Sam that is on top of her, holding her down. At this point, she's trying to scream and nothing is coming out. And she is frantic. And it felt like forever that she was just laying there being held down by this doll, when finally she's able to get up and she just throws the doll off of her into the corner of the room. But then she sees something out of the corner of her eye and she looks slowly over, and there that man is. He's standing there in her closet, that tall man with a top hat on, that shadow figure, standing in her closet whispering. So Sam just starts screaming, "Go away! I will not hurt my family!" Her mom just comes rushing into the room, and her mom is like, what is going on? She thinks she's having a bad dream, and she tells her mom exactly what happened about her dream, how she woke up and she was in her room and that the doll was on top of her, and then this man is there whispering, telling her to unalive her family. So her mom is like, oh my God, if this is really happening to you and you're not just a kid making up stories, I'm putting a camera in your room to see what happens. What they saw on that camera will terrify her for the rest of her life. Her mom then gets on camera this tall shadow figure with a hat on, holding her daughter down with his hand over her mouth, yelling at her to unalive her family. Immediately after they see this, they move out of the house. They move into a different house. The only problem is when they moved, this thing followed. As soon as they move into their new house, strange things start happening. Doors start opening and closing, slamming shut. Cabinets start slamming shut on their own. All these things are happening on their own. And then one night in particular, something extra terrifying happened. On this night, Allie goes to bed like any other normal day. Her parents wake up in the middle of the night with Allie in their room, standing over them with a sharp object in her hand, and her mom starts freaking out. Her mom then gets up, tries to stop her from whatever she's doing, and she starts speaking in like this tongue, but this was like not her voice. It sounded what her mom could only describe as demonic. It was deep. It was not that of a 10-year-old girl. Her mom then gets closer to her to try to get this sharp object out of her hand, and she notices that there are no whites in her eyes. Her eyes are completely black. They're trying and trying to wake her up, and they can't get her to wake up, and finally they get her to wake up and like come back to normal. And she just looks at her mom and she goes, why am I in your room? And her mom looks at her and goes, you just came in our room with a sharp object and your eyes black. I don't know what's going on with you. Are you sleepwalking? Like, this is insane. And Allie just starts crying, because at this point she's afraid that she's gonna hurt her family, just like this entity wanted her to. So her mom at this point is like, we've had enough. We need to call a local priest. So they call a local priest that has been in their family for a very long time. And her mom tells him everything that has been going on, but about the dreams, about the doll on top of her, about what they caught on camera, everything. Then the priest is like, okay, you're gonna have to bring her in because I have to ask her some questions. So the first thing that the priest asks her is, when did you first experience all of this? Like, where were you? So she answers the question. And then he says, have you ever talked to the doll before? And she says, yes, I talk to her all the time. She tells me things that nobody else knows. The priest then asks, does this doll tell you whether or not she's had a family before you? Has anyone else owned this doll before you? And she says, yes, actually she did tell me. A little girl named Katrina owned her before me. And the priest then goes, well, why did Katrina get rid of the doll? And she looks him dead in the face and says, well, because Katrina did what she said. She hurt her family. The priest then looks at her mother in horror and is like, listen, between her standing over your bed with that sharp object and the questions that she just answered, this is not good. Like, we have to do an exorcism. And apparently this guy had exorcism rights, which is pretty rare. Allie, being a young girl, has no idea what's going on, but all she knows is that she's about to get an exorcism, and she kind of understands what that means, and it's terrifying her. The priest then tells her that everything is going to be okay, but that when she comes for the exorcism, she needs to bring the doll as well, because something is inside of that doll. So when they show up to the place that they're supposed to have the exorcism, it's inside of the church, and inside of the church is this big white room, and it's completely bare. It only has a bed, a table, and a Bible. That's it. Then looks at Allie and he says, you and the doll need to get in the bed. And then he looks at her mother and he says, you need to go outside. You need to go outside of the church and wait outside. outside. And then he looks back at Allie and he says, you are God's child, God's will be done. So her and her doll lay on the table, and then her mom goes outside, and then he starts reading scripture, and she can't understand the language that he is reading the scripture in, but she now knows today that it was Old Aramaic. Why he chose Aramaic, I have no idea, but he did. And while he's doing this, he starts saying in English, and it's the only English that he's speaking, you shall leave the doll, and you shall not possess this child. And then he starts throwing holy water on both of them. And suddenly, the lights go out. Now he's prepared. He has a candle that she did not see before, and he lights the candle and he begins reading the scripture again. And this is at the point where she blacks out and she doesn't remember anything, and the only thing she knows is what he told her. Apparently she's laying on the table at this point. She slowly sits up. She turns and looks at him very slowly. Her eyes are pitch black, and she says, "You're too late. She's ours." So he's obviously scared at this point, but he continues to go on. And at some point, this thing that's inside of her starts taunting him. And apparently it brought up something incredibly personal that absolutely petrified him. Like something that she could not have possibly known, it started taunting him with. He still today will not tell her what that thing was, but he continued to read the scripture and throw holy water on her. And at one point, the holy water actually burned her arm, and she still has a scar where that holy water is. Eventually, this priest was able to cast out whatever was inside of her, and she was okay. She woke up, she looked around the room, and she just asked, is it gone? Is it gone? And he said, yes, it's gone. Apparently, this was an incredibly long and drawn out process that I'm sure he didn't want to relay to a little girl, but that's absolutely terrifying. This is obviously not the entire story. There is more of the story, but obviously I could not fit it all on here. But what did you guys think about the story? The story was absolutely wild. First of all, the Raggedy Ann doll, that part just freaked me right out. Like, how similar is this to The Conjuring? Like, it's different because somebody was possessed and they needed to have an exorcism, but like a doll being inhabited by something that actually like harms a little girl is absolutely wild to me. My two questions to her, and something that I asked her, it was if she had that footage that she talked about that her mom caught, and also if she ever found anything out about that little girl Katrina, if there's anything like on the web or anything that she found out about that little girl Katrina that she could tell us. Those are my questions, but what are your questions? What are your thoughts? What are your opinions? Please be respectful as always. Thank you. And now I'm gonna do my favorite part, which is the shout outs. My first shout out is going to Mika DTX. Your comment was the best because you are promoting all of my channels, and I appreciated you doing that so much. So thank you for that. That was awesome of you. Thank you for commenting and pushing out my videos. Thank you for watching my videos. Thank you for just being a supporter. It means absolutely everything to me that you are part of this little community, and I just can't show my appreciation enough to you. So thank you. I love you. Mama Pud 420 is my next shout out. You comment a lot, and I really appreciate you for doing that. Thank you so much. Thank you for pushing out my videos with your comments. Thank you for supporting my page. Thank you for watching my videos all the time. I see you, girl. I notice you, and I appreciate that more than you know. You're always so kind, and it just means so much to me. So thank you. I love you, girl. With that being said, my name is Kajsa, and I tell true scary stories on here every single night that you guys submit to me. So if you're into that, hit that follow button, and I just need you to do 3 things for me. And what are those? Keep sending me your scary stories. Have a safe night. And what's the third one? Say it with me. Have a spooky night. Love you guys so much. See you in the next one. Spooky kisses and haunted hugs.
So I just got my first haunted doll story and I'm freaking out. Spooky story time. A follower named Kayla sent me the story and we're gonna call it The Haunted Doll. So Kayla says that she is an avid thrifter. She loves thrift stores, estate sales, yard sales, anything within that realm, she is game. She also says that she loves to collect porcelain dolls, similar to this one. So she went to an estate sale and she said that there was a few porcelain dolls. They were a little bit pricey, but she came across one that she could not say no to. For some reason, this doll was just calling her name. She checked the price, and although it was in an estate sale, it was $75. She does say that vintage porcelain dolls tend to be a little bit more expensive, so she was like, you know what, I'm just gonna bite the bullet. I'm obsessed. She's calling my name. I need it. So Kayla bought the doll and brought her home. She says that at her house, she has about 20 to 25 different porcelain dolls, and they all sit in a designated area. She dusted her new doll down, fixed her hair, got her all nice and ready, and she put her on her shelf. About 2 days later, things started to change. She said that her doll shelf was to the left in her living room. Her TV was straight ahead. She would watch TV, and out of nowhere, she could see a dark shadow just kind of like... She had never seen stuff like that, so she didn't think anything of it until it started to happen more often. She'd be coming from the kitchen to the living room, and again, from the corner of her eye, she could see a dark, black, just huge shadow standing right in the corner. One day she was taking a shower and she hears this loud crash. Freaking out, immediately she grabs a towel, runs out of her restroom. She's looking around, doesn't see anything, goes into the living room, and she sees that all of the dolls that were on the shelf were now on the floor. Some of them were broken, and the only one that was left on the shelf was this new one that she had just purchased at the estate sale. Oh, hell no. She did not let things get worse because something in her told her, get rid of it. This is not right. For the past few days, you've been seeing black shadows, weird things, weird noises, and now this is the biggest red flag. Out of all places, she decides to go to a car wash, disposes of this porcelain doll at the car wash trash can, and everything that was happening before suddenly stopped. She wants to know, do you think there was something attached to the doll? Do you think the doll itself was haunted? What do you guys think? Personally, if my personal collection of things that I love and cherish was getting sold off after I passed, I would be pissed and I would be raising some hell. I think it might be the original owner. What do you guys think? Thank you so much to Caleb for sending me this spooky story. If you guys have any stories that you'd like for me to read, please send them via DM or email, and I'd love to read them. And I will see you guys in the next spooky story. Bye!
This is the scariest haunted doll story that I've ever gotten. Junior year high, I usually talk about spooky scary stuff, and I have an email where anyone who finds this page can send me their ghost stories. And let me just say that these stories have gotten so scary that I've gone from reading them strictly at night to only during the daytime. And if I do have to read something at night, I will not read it in the dark. So let's get into it. The person who sent me this email says that since they were a little girl, they have been able to see and feel spirits. To the point where she would have her parents move her bed and her crib around the room because she felt like someone was in the closet. And it eventually got to the point where she refused to be in her room by herself. And when she was 6 or 7 years old, she was gifted a 4-foot porcelain doll for Christmas. And she specifically says that she immediately got a really, really bad feeling about the doll. And after being gifted this doll, she began to have issues sleeping again. And it was the same thing as before when she was a little girl. Like, there's someone in my closet, I feel like I'm being watched, I don't like it in here. And she continued to describe that she would put this doll in the corner of the room and wake up and it would be positioned closer to her. And she just thought it was someone pulling a prank on her in her home, so she just brushed it off and was like, okay, these people are trying to scare me because they know I don't like this thing. And it even went as far as her confronting her twin brother and her parents, and all of them were like, no, we don't touch it, please stop freaking yourself out, like, this is why you can't sleep in your room by yourself. And I guess after that conversation, she decided to walk up to the doll and say that I know what you are, and I know that you're evil. And this is where things get super scary. The doll begins to lean forward to the point where it falls on top of her, and she is literally unable to get it off of her. She's screaming to the point where her dad rushes in and picks this thing up off of her and is like, how did that happen? And she begins to describe, like, I said it was evil and it fell on top of me and I couldn't get it off of me and blah, 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 blah. And the dad right then and there just rips the doll apart. And what I'm imagining in my head is, like, literally dismembering the doll. Like, took the head off, took the arms off, took the legs off, etc. Goes out to the garbage can, throws it away, and is like, yeah, we're done with that. I don't like that it's tormenting you. I don't like that it's tormenting our family, etc., etc. They all wake up the next morning, open the door, and the doll is laying there at the front door. And everyone begins to freak out. And it immediately turns into a blame game. And at this point, her parents start fighting about who got it out of the garbage and who put it back together to scare their daughter. And she never really describes what happened to the doll after that. I'm assuming it just got thrown out. But the girl who sent me this email starts to experience sleep paralysis shortly after they got rid of the doll. They also begin to experience other paranormal happenings, like the doors opening and shutting by themselves. You know the gist. And a couple months ago, they decided to move out of this house. And one day, out of the blue, one of the women who was helping them move out just abruptly said, I am not helping you anymore. There's something weird going on in this house. I don't like it. And when the family was like, what do you mean there's something weird going on in the house? The woman helping them literally said, I hear your husband's voice call out to me all of the time, and he is not here. And what's really, really strange is the girl who sent me this email specifically says that her dad was in another city for work at the time while they were packing up to move. And the woman who was helping them says that he would call out to her repeatedly, and when she would call back to him, he wouldn't respond. And if you've been here a long time, then you know I do not like dolls like this. I don't like any dolls. They freak me out, and it's for this specific reason. And this is also not the first time I've heard of a doll coming from somewhere and being gifted to somebody that has some weird energy, and then some weird paranormal stuff happens. The entity of a doll haunted my boyfriend for a long time, and it was just... But anyways, that's gonna do it for me. Stay tuned for my ghost stories.
Please don't hate me. I was banned, okay? I got unbanned yesterday. I was banned for a couple of days and I couldn't even comment. Like, someone went and mass reported like my videos, and so I got banned, and then I submitted an appeal, and then they finally like appealed it yesterday. But fear not, I'm here with part 2, and not only is it part 2, I'm gonna give y'all 3 story times today just so I can apologize. So boom, she finds the wedding ring in the doll's hand. Come to find out it was the co-workers. At this point, she's worried because this can be used against her. Like, she can go to jail for this. She doesn't really know what to do with the ring. She doesn't want to like give it to the police or give it back to the co-worker, because how are you going to explain that my doll did it? And it took her some time, because she really had to think about this, because that doll was a very special gift. So it took her some time before she decided to bury the doll and the wedding ring. So ultimately she decides that like this doll is hurting people because of me. I understand that it's protecting me, but who's gonna protect me from the doll? So she's like, I have to do this. I have to. So she goes in her backyard. She, digs up a little hole, and she buries the doll and the wedding ring in the backyard. She had a moment where she regretted it, because that was like the last thing that her grandma left her. But she had already did it. Was done is done. And she goes to bed. And as she's sleeping, at exactly 3 a.m., there's a banging on her window. She wakes up, she inspects outside the window, and there's nobody there. For a second, she thought she was tweaking, until she decided, you know what, I'm going to go use the bathroom and go back to sleep. Maybe I'm just like on edge from everything that happened. And she goes to the bathroom, and the doll is right next to the toilet. And as you would guess, yes, she's terrified. Not only because the doll reappeared, but also because she doesn't even know if the doll's mad now, because she tried to bury the doll. And so she's very conflicted, because she's like, why would my grandma leave me something like this, I understand that it's trying to protect me, but like it's unnecessary. And at this point, she's scared to try and bury it again. So she kept the doll. But with keeping the doll, she also tried to do research. Like, she tried to call back home in Puerto Rico to try to get some help. Like, can somebody please help me? She ended up speaking with somebody that told her that if she gets rid of the doll, she can eventually get rid of the doll, but she would just have to go through this whole ritual thing that takes about a couple of months, and that she would have to really be consistent with it. And if she does get rid of it, there's a consequence that might come back from her grandma appointing that doll to her. Also, the process too, like with her going through the process of trying to get rid of the doll, obviously the doll don't want to go. So they told her that things will be happening in your life, like bad things. You may even lose family members again. So ultimately she had decided to just keep the doll, right? Because she didn't want to go through none of that. Until it kept happening. Like, the doll kept trying to get revenge for her even when she didn't want it. So about a year later, she just decided that she was going to move back to Puerto Rico and do it there, do the process there. She did do the process. She said it was very traumatizing. She did ended up losing people in the process, like the person told her. But now, till this day, she just has really bad nightmares about the doll. She barely has regular dreams. Every night is a freaking nightmare. She doesn't have the doll anymore. She did get rid of it, but it did take a huge toll on her. But yeah, that's basically the end of the story. Again, I'm so sorry. So expect 3 more stories today just for you guys, just because I love y'all. Don't forget to go follow me on Instagram in case they do delete this app. And subscribe to my YouTube. I love you guys.
If you don't like dolls, you are not going to like this story, so just a scroll. So tonight's submitter's name is Evie, and when Evie was younger, she was in a sports camp. So basically her and her friends like to do this thing where they would annoy people. They would go around and they would knock on people's doors. It was kind of like a ding-dong ditch situation, and they would do this repetitively. And so one day they're doing this, knocking on all these doors, people are answering, people are getting really annoyed, and then they get to this one door, and it's called door 36. It's important to note that their trainer told them that every single room was full. Every single cabin, I guess you should say, was full. Cabin 36 was the furthest cabin from their cabin. It was about 12 o'clock at night at this point, and they go and knock on the door and no one answers. And they knock again, and they hear this banging coming from inside, and it's just like bang, 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 but no one is answering the door. So they're like, okay, we're gonna go away and we're gonna come back. So they go away, they come back around 2 a.m. and they knock on the door again. And this time they hear a voice on the other end of the door, but this voice does not sound human to them. So they're terrified at this point. You just hear, They go running back to their cabin and they go to sleep, but the next morning they're so terrified that they actually tell their trainer, hey, listen, somebody is in the cabin 36 and we think something's wrong in there. And the trainer is like, you need to stop bothering people. This is crazy that you guys are doing this. Stop bothering people. But they didn't want to just leave it like that, of course. So what they did is they waited till everybody was asleep and then they went and got keys to cabin 36. They go to cabin 36, they unlock the door, they open it, and what they see is horrifying. There is everywhere, and a scary doll sitting in the middle of the room. Just this scary looking doll in the middle of the room with blood everywhere. And not to mention that she had dreamt about this doll. Evie had dreamt about this doll before that was sitting in front of her. So after they see this, they run back to the trainer's room. They wake up the trainer and they're like, listen, something really bad happened in room 36. There is everywhere and there's some creepy doll in there. And the trainer is like, oh my god, what are you guys doing? You're lying, this is crazy, what are you talking about? They're like, no, seriously, go look. So the trainer goes and looks and he freaks out. He had to call the police and everybody had to leave the camp early, every single person. So they called a bus and everybody had to get on that bus and leave the camp early. Only problem is one of her friends left a brush inside of one of the cabins and she had to go back and get it. And when she went back and got it, she had to walk past cabin 36. As she's walking past cabin 36, she looks inside. She sees the blood and she sees a shadow person holding the doll, sitting in a chair, just brushing the doll. Oh my god. The girl then forgets about her brush. She runs back to the bus and they leave and they never see the place ever again. They never go back to the place and they also never, I don't know if they found out what happened to it because I did email her back and she has not emailed me back yet. But if you guys want me to tell you guys what actually happened in that cabin, then drop it in the comments because I am so curious to know. Sorry. I figured I would give you that little extra story tonight. What do you guys think of that story? What the heck do you think happened in that room? And what do you think was holding that doll? And why do you think there was a doll in that room? Like, that's insane. I don't even know what to think about this story. I also want to know what that doll looked like. Do you guys want to know? I have so many questions. I have so many questions. My first shout out is going to Nicole.miller.salisbury. Girl, I appreciate you. I appreciate you leaving that comment and being so sweet. I love sweet comments. They are my favorite. Thank you for being so sweet. Thank you for being supportive. And I am one of your favorite creators. That makes me feel so good. You have no idea. And my second shout out is going to Shayla. Shayla, you are always so supportive, always commenting. I appreciate you so much, girl. Thank you so much. You are the best. I love you for that. And this dress, oh my gosh, I'm obsessed with it. It is so stunning. Look at the chains right here. I love the chains. It comes in 10 different colors, 10 different patterns. It's so flowy. Oh my gosh, I am obsessed with this dress, you guys. You have to check it out. I will drop the link for you below. Other than that, I'm Kajsa. I tell true scary stories every single night that you guys submit to me. So if you like that, hit that follow button. And I need you guys to do 3 things for me. And the first one is keep sending me your spooky stories, guys. The second one is have a safe night. And what's the third one? Say it with me. Have a spooky night. Love you guys. See you in the next one.
Hi, my name is Joy and I see dead people. Today will be part 6 of the things I've seen in Zach Bagans' Haunted Museum in Vegas. Upgrading, I got a mic. Today we're going to be talking about the experiences I've had with Peggy the doll. Peggy the doll is an infamously haunted doll at Zach Bagans' Haunted Museum, and people who want to look in her eyes have been warned that it could have consequences. The first time I ever went was with my best friend Mariah for her birthday last year in October. Peggy was someone I was very, very nervous to meet because of the things I see and what I've heard about her. So my friend was very excited, but when I went in, I was like, I don't even want to risk anything. I'm just going to look at the ground. You go in, you say, hi, Peggy, because you don't want to piss her off. There's a spirit box in there, and sometimes things come in. I believe that time she did say hello. She did say Zach's name. That happens almost every time, and she called him a B word. Classy. I just wanted to look at the ground. I was really, really nervous. Walk into a room, there's just like a rope, and then she's in the back with some other dolls. On my right, I notice a almost like shadow figure of a doll. She has like pigtails up here. She's all black and she's super, super small. I would say she's only about that big, walking like a wind-up toy, just walking towards us. And she's very slow, but she's working her way. Hey, I think we need to leave. And my friend was like, hey, I want to keep looking. And I'm like, no, I really want out of here. So we walk out, and this thing, no joke, just keep walking towards us even as we exit, and it's like just beelining it at me. Even outside of the room, it continues to follow us until we go into the next. It looked a little something like this. Don't believe I saw her any other times than that. And I don't think it was Peggy, it was just something that was in that room. For those who have been watching these videos, know that sometimes things will visit me before we go. And I was having some really troubling experiences with Peggy coming to my house because, again, I was newer at having such strong things trying to terrorize me. I didn't know how to upgrade my protections at that time. And it was something I was working on, I promise you. And that I am always working on because things just love to surprise me. I was having several dreams about her, and I would feel her running around my room at night. I never saw her in my room. But there were several occasions that I would look at my doorway 2 or 3 times. There was the shadow of Peggy. It even had her curls, it had everything. And for those who know about Slender Man, that's the best way I can describe it. She had almost like these black, just dark tentacles coming out of her. I did also draw a picture of that. It looked a bit like this, and that would happen at night, and it was very terrifying. So I was very nervous to see her. I also have a Haunted Museum tarot card deck, and she was coming up in every single pull I had about my life and about the trip that was going to transpire. She came up every time. We went in with a friend of mine who also works at the museum. I'm not going to be naming names of most of the people that I go on these experiences with because they are not my stories to tell and their privacy is important to me. But this person did have their name mentioned by Peggy. They do have a connection with that doll. I also heard my name, and I did look at her for a minute this time, but I was very, very hesitant, and I just remember being like, hey, you can't come home with me. You can't be at my house ever again. She is banned from my house now. She's like, everything's fine. But it was very, very scary of an experience. This last time I went with a different friend and employee this time, as well as my best friend. She goes with me every time. Interesting because normally she likes to try to scare me. This time she was angry, and she wasn't angry at me. She was angry at our boy Zach for putting that new doll Noma next door to her. She does not like Noma. She is pissed. She is not having a good time. When I was there, she was very angry that that was added. And they even added a door connecting the 2 rooms, and she is extra pissed about that. Luckily, I haven't really had any bad experiences with her since. I will be going next year, hopefully twice, so we'll see if that all changes. Have you guys ever had any experiences with her, and what all have you guys heard through her spirit box? Personally, I hear her call Zach a B word a lot. One time she called him a piece of
Let's talk about another haunted doll. If you're new here, hi. I usually talk about some pretty scary stuff, and recently I was sitting down with one of my friends, and she told me legitimately the most terrifying ghost story I've ever heard about a haunted doll. So let's get into it. So here's the context of how the doll got to her and her family. Essentially, her neighbor was moving away and was like, hey, I can't take this doll with me. Can you guys keep her for me? I don't know why this neighbor would give them the doll. I don't know. And unfortunately, this doll wasn't like a Raggedy Ann doll. This was a large porcelain vintage doll. So my friend and her family agreed to keep the doll for their neighbor. And my friend specifically says that when they started having the doll in their home, there was just like some weird energy going on around the doll. And they specifically started to notice
and this gives me chills, that the doll's fingers started falling off. Like porcelain fingers would go missing. And they had no idea where the fingers were going. They were never able to find them. And just as a reminder, this wasn't a tiny porcelain doll where like the fingers could go missing if you like bumped it wrong. This was a pretty big porcelain doll from my understanding. Eventually it got to the point, I don't know how long into them having the doll where they decided to get rid of it, but it was essentially, this doll's really weird and it freaks us out and there's something wrong with it. So I'm pretty sure they donated it. So if you need to decide to not buy things from thrift stores, especially porcelain dolls, that was it. But it gets worse. So my friend was doing her laundry, and the way that their house is set up, the washer and dryer are in the basement where the doll used to be. She's just doing her thing when out of the corner of her eye, she sees this little thing run. And it was wearing the same color dress that the porcelain doll had, and it was about the same size as the porcelain doll. And my friend said after that experience, she refused to do anything in the basement or do her laundry in the basement for a long time. And that she still hates going down there. And I don't know what it is about seeing things out of the corner of your eye. Way scarier than I think seeing something at face value. But anyways, that's gonna do it for me. Stay tuned for more ghost stories.
This is my grandma's haunted doll, Greta, and today I'm going to tell you guys about her. I removed the glass casing, but don't worry, she is not a scary haunted doll. She is a very sweet haunted doll. Greta came from a family member that had passed her down to my grandma, and apparently there was a little girl who owned her during the war, and the little girl was running during the war, and somebody was pew-pewing at the little girl, and Greta was hit, and that is why her sleeve is ripped like this. There is supposedly blood stains on her. I don't know if you can see that. That's the story we were told. We don't know if it's 100% accurate, so if anyone recognizes this doll and knows exactly where she came from and if that story is accurate, that'd be really cool to find out. I'm gonna tell you guys some of the things that have happened since we have had Greta here in the house. My cousin does live downstairs. He has an apartment down there, and there has been a lot of times where the lights have turned off and on, doors have closed, just things like that. There was one time that I was over here at my grandma's house, and I was here cleaning, and I was here by myself, and I was in my grandma's bedroom, and I heard voices talking in the hall, and it sounded like two people. We don't think that Greta is the only spirit that roams my grandma's house, but I heard voices talking, and I heard like walking through the hall, and my grandma's neighbor brings her mail, so I thought that it might have been her neighbor bringing her mail, and then I went in the hall and realized that there was nobody here, and there was no mail that had been brought. So that kind of scared me a little, mostly just because I was here by myself, but it wasn't like a scary spirit, if that makes sense. But yeah, I want to do more videos about Greta and about Grandma's haunted house, so if anyone has questions or things they want to see, comment them below. Since there's a lot of new Kelcats here, I'm going to share again why my doll is haunted. So this porcelain doll, its name is Tara, but there is a spirit attached to it named Lola. There are theories that spirits like to attach to things that are called vessels, like dolls, objects, humans, houses, etc. They believe that spirits do this sometimes to feel more attached to Earth and maybe feel more alive. And Lola said that she attached to this doll because it was a really pretty little doll and it reminded her of herself when she was alive. I did a session with her using the Necrophonic app, and that's how I know that. So Lola was 18 years old when she died of the Spanish flu. She was born in 1901 and died in 1919. Her previous caretaker had a lot of haunted dolls, and she was just wanting to give away some of them, and she was selling Lola on eBay, so that's where I got her.
I grew up in a haunted house, and this thing followed us no matter where we went. So I told y'all in the last video about my grandma's house being haunted. Well, when I was a few years old in the late 80s, my parents finally got their own place. I wake up at like 2 o'clock in the morning and I have to pee, and weirdly enough, in this house, I wasn't scared like I was at Grandma's, so I take off and go to the bathroom, no problem. So I'm sitting on the toilet trying to pee, and I start hearing some kind of scratching noise outside the bathroom door, and that's when a big thunder hit, boom, so I jump up off the toilet, run back to my bedroom, hiding under the covers. It was after I jumped on the bed that I realized I left the bedroom door open, so now I could see straight down that dark hallway. My little 5-year-old brain decides I'm gonna be Billy Badass tonight, and I'm gonna get up and shut that bedroom door by myself, and I'm not gonna wake my sister up. I'm not gonna let this thing push me around like it did at Grandma's. I'm gonna stand up to it now. That was a big mistake. So I walk up to the bedroom door, my shoulders bowed up and my chest out. I grab the handle, and as I'm shutting it, I see something standing at the end of the hallway. Now, at first, I thought it was my sister, so I'm like, blank, is that you? But then when I turn around, she's laying in bed. I'm like, well, if that's her, then whose eyes are those? That was where I saw my Pee Wee Herman doll standing at the end of the hallway. I had been looking for this doll all day. It was my favorite, most prized possession as a child. I love Pee Wee's Playhouse. I slept with this doll every night, and I was so glad I found it. Not after this. So I start trotting down the hallway thinking, oh, there's my Pee Wee Herman doll. I'm just gonna go grab it and then run back to bed. Y'all, that Pee Wee Herman doll stood up and took off running at me. And as I backed up towards the door, it started growing in size until its head touched the ceiling. That thing's face started stretching out away from its head. The eyes were getting bigger, its nose was stretching out real pointy, it had big teeth, and its smile was touching each ear. It was so tall, it was slumped over, and its head was still hitting the ceiling, and its shoulders were touching each wall. Straight up nightmare fuel. I pissed my pants, slammed the bedroom door shut, jumped into my bed, and hid under the covers. I started crying because I couldn't understand, why would my Pee Wee doll do this to me? I love it so much. That doll sit outside our bedroom door all night long saying, ha ha, Pee Wee's Playhouse. And what was so creepy was every time it said a line, that line would start to drag. You know how when the batteries die and it sounds like it's talking in slow motion? That's what it was doing. I couldn't determine whether this was real or a dream, so I started trying to wake myself up. Next morning, I wake up scared, but I realized it was just a nightmare, thank God. But when I get up out of bed, I smell pee, and that's because I was still wearing the pants I peed in the night before. And when I opened our bedroom door, that little Pee Wee Herman pull-string doll was sitting up against the door. So I snatched that Pee Wee doll up, and I go throw it in the trash so my parents can't see because I knew they had spent some money on this doll. We were dirt poor, but I threw it in the trash anyways because it scared me so bad. 3 days later, I find Pee Wee sitting on my bed. My mom found it in the trash, cleaned it up, and brought it back because she thought I accidentally threw it away. My mama ended up throwing that doll away a few months later because she swore it kept talking to itself while we were at school, and it scared the hell out of her. Mama said she started having nightmares that doll was chasing her down a hallway. Now that would make a damn good horror movie.
Did you know that one of the top 10 most haunted dolls in the world lives in Australia? These are the ghost stories from our own backyard, so sit down, dim the lights as I tell you about the story of the Let Me Out doll. In 1972, Kerry Walton and his brother decided to explore an abandoned house that scared them as kids. While exploring this house, Kerry found a strange-looking doll with a wicked grin under the floorboards. Kerry thought it was the body of a small child at first, but on closer inspection, it was a wooden doll dressed in green with a long braid. Kerry and his brother decided to take this doll home and put it in a sack in the back seat of his car. At one point, they said that it looked like the bag was moving. The brother made a joke by shaking the bag and screaming, "Let me out," which is where the name came from. And ever since then, strange occurrences have followed this doll. It is reported that Letta the doll moves by itself, with strange scuff marks appearing on the doll's shoes and around the house. His movement has also been caught on camera. The presence of the doll itself has been known to make people sick and even faint at the sight of it. On further examination of the doll, it was confirmed that the head of hair on this doll was human. Walton took the doll to a museum where experts said that the doll could be around 200 years old, and that it was from Eastern Europe, most likely Romania. Walton also took the doll to a psychic, and the psychic said that this doll was inhabited by a young boy who died from drowning. And Kerry thinks that this is the reason why it's always raining when they go travelling. At one point, Kerry Walton did try to get rid of the doll by selling it, but said when he got to his car it was like a physical force was stopping him from getting in. Ever since then, the Let Me Out doll has become an important part of his family. Despite its frightening appearance, Walton has said that the doll has actually brought good luck to his life.
Dear Santa, I don't know if you're real or not, but I'm begging you to bring me a doll for Christmas. If you don't bring me a doll, I will have to ask the devil for it. That was a lot. So there was a lady named Anna, and this happened to her when she was 8 years old back in the 80s. She says that at the time she lived in Mexico with her mom, dad, and her grandmother. At the time, they didn't have a lot of money and they lived in a very poor neighborhood. Sometimes they didn't even have enough money for the most basic things that they needed at home. She remembers that it was around the holiday season and she would see a lot of kids out in the street, you know, playing with their new toys and things that are being gifted to them. Even at the age of 8 years old, she knew that she wasn't gonna get anything for Christmas. She knew that her family didn't have enough money to buy gifts. But even with no hope in the world, she still wrote her letter to Santa Claus on the 24th of December. Dear Santa, I don't know if you're real or not, but I'm begging you to bring me a doll for Christmas. If you don't bring me that doll, I will have to ask the devil for it. She says that in her innocence, she thought that by threatening Santa Claus, it would motivate him to bring her the doll that she really wanted. She said that that night they had a family dinner, they ate, and they went to bed. But right before she went to her bedroom, she said that she looked at that Christmas tree and she just begged it to have a gift when she woke up in the morning. The next morning when she woke up, the first thing she did was run to that Christmas tree and she stood there in shock. She couldn't believe it, and in that very moment she screamed so loud that her grandmother and her parents came running into the living room thinking something had happened. But her scream was of happiness because under the Christmas tree there was a box, and inside that box was a doll. The doll was just as big as her, and it was the most beautiful doll she had ever seen, and she just remembers how her parents and grandmother were looking at her and they were just so happy because she got a doll for Christmas. She said that day was one of the happiest days of her life, but it was only because she didn't know the hell that they were about to go through. As time went on, she started to notice really weird, strange things about the doll. At nighttime, she would always place the doll in the box that it came in because she didn't want it to get dirty. However, every time she would wake up, the doll would be sitting in a chair at the end of her bed. I already have chills. She says that one day her entire family went out and they were coming back home. And when the door opened, every single person saw when the doll ran from the living room all the way to her bedroom. Oh my god, I have goosebumps. Can you imagine? Like every single one of her grandma, her mom, her dad, they all saw the doll run to her room. In that moment, out of like pure terror, her mom fainted and fell to the ground. And her grandmother just started praying. She was also terrified of what she had just seen. In that moment, they can hear where things were falling and breaking inside her bedroom. The dad, with all the courage he had, decided to go in there and check it out. What the dad saw when he walked into her bedroom was the doll sitting in that same chair and everything in her room just destroyed. That same night, the grandmother confessed to her parents that on December 24th, she took all the money she had, which was only 30 pesos, and she was on a mission to buy a gift for her granddaughter. She was having no luck finding a store or anybody that can help her until she came upon just like a whole bunch of trash. And in that trash was the doll. She couldn't believe that she found like the most beautiful doll just in that trash, and she ran back home to put that doll under the Christmas tree. So the following day, her parents took the doll and they went to go throw it as far away as possible from their home. Unfortunately, the next day, that doll was inside of their house again. She mentions how the next following days, her parents tried a lot of different things to try to get rid of this doll, and it would always come back to their house. But that wasn't even like the worst thing, because they started to experience paranormal things in their home. They would hear footsteps, some things would just like move by themselves, and they started to hear like little kids laughing. The family became desperate and they brought a witch to the house to help them. When that witch saw the doll, she told them that she did not have enough power for what they have in their house. She could not help them. However, she did tell them that that doll was possessed by a demon. She says that her mom, in the desperation to get rid of this doll, ended up going to a church that was around their neighborhood. When she got to the church, she stumbled upon a priest who was lighting up candles or incense. I think that's what she said. And she ended up telling him everything that was happening in their home, and the priest agreed that he would visit their home at nighttime that same day. The priest, his name was Ezequiel Monteverde, and told her that she would go to their house at 8 p.m. And at 8 p.m. on the dot, he showed up to their home. The second that priest stepped into their home, it got so cold, it almost felt like a freezer inside of their home. The priest walks to her room, sees the doll, and tells her parents that it does not matter how many times you take the doll out, it was gonna end up coming right back. He said it was because the demon that was inside of that doll was very powerful. She said the craziest thing happened. The priest told her parents that the only way that they were gonna get rid of it was to form an exorcism on the doll in order to return the demon back to where it came from. It was the most intense thing that she had ever experienced in her life. She remembers the priest taking out the Bible, taking a cross out, and some holy water. But the priest took 2 hours in the room with the doll, and in the meantime the lights would flicker, things were moving on their own, and there was also a point where that doll was almost like convulsing by itself. What the fuck? She remembers when the priest finally tells it one last time, "I order you to leave this doll and leave this family alone." She remembers when he said that sentence, all the lights went out. However, there was an immense sense of peace in that home. The priest also kneeled down and started praying, and then just like nothing stood up, grabbed his Bible, holy water, the cross, and the doll, and left their home. She said that she remembers her mom running to their bedroom and getting like the littlest bit of savings that she had and attempted to give it to the priest, but he was like, "No, I don't need your money, it's okay." So the next day, the mom was so happy that everything had been peaceful in their home that she had gone to the supermarket and brought a lot of fruit. She decided to make like a fruit cup, and she was gonna go and take it to the priest just as a thank you for what he did for their family. When she got to the church, she saw another priest at the door, and she asked him where she could find the priest Ezekiel so that she can give him the fruit. However, the priest was like, "Lady, is this a joke?" And she was like, "No, I would like to give him this fruit as a thank you." And that's when the priest told her, "Lady, priest Ezekiel has been dead for over 10 years.
A voodoo doll saved mine and my son's life. That is the title of the true scary story submission I am telling tonight. There is a trigger warning for SA in this, so if you cannot handle that, please scroll. Guys, you definitely want to protect yourself with this one because it does deal with voodoo, so just make sure that your headphones are in your ear and you are saying a prayer before and after. Before we get started, I just want to remind you to subscribe to my YT channel and my IG. Both are in the link tree in my bio. If something happens to TikTok, that is where I will be. Also, guys, if you want to send me your true scary story and you want me to recount it on here, my email is in my bio. So today's submitter's name is Rachel, and Rachel comes from a big family. Her mom was one of 12. Her grandmother, her, and her aunt all had special abilities. They were sensitives, but they were kind of secretive about it. She said that her aunt and her mother were literally the definition of eyes in the back of your head, but that they were, again, secretive about it. Growing up, she remembers a lot of weird experiences. Like, she would sleepwalk a lot, and she would always end up in 2 different spots, either the corner in the living room or the closet in the basement underneath the stairs, which is creepy in itself. She also remembers one time she was in her family home and she was walking past the bathroom. She sees something in the corner of her eye. She looks, and there's a little girl crouching in the corner in the bathtub. And one time they were vacationing in Florida, and she woke up in the middle of the night. She was asleep, and she saw something sitting at the end of her bed, and there was a man sitting at the end of her bed. Now, this scared her, and she went and told her mom about it. And her mom actually seemed pleased about this for some reason. So her mom goes and gets her grandmother and brings her over to her, and she's like, "Listen, I always knew that you had special gifts." She, I think, was proud of her because they also have special gifts. She said that she found out later that her mom actually saw the same little girl, but didn't say anything about it. She said that she would often have these experiences and she would see things, but she would brush them off because she didn't really want anything to do with them. I think they kind of scared her. Unfortunately, about 5 years later, her mother passed away and she had to move in with her aunt, who was kind of like her mother. She was about 17 or 18 at this time. Now, she said that she had a lot of experiences at her aunt's house too, but she kind of just brushed those off too. She moves out of the house when she's about 20, and when she's 22 years old, she has her baby son. They have a house that's normally very quiet, but she often has her best friend over. She met her best friend when she was 17 or 18 years old, and her best friend is very very into spiritual things, but she didn't really want anything to do with that just because of everything of her past. All that stuff that happened to her freaked her out. Now, her best friend had a child 3 weeks after she had a child, and they were best friends. They worked at the same place. They lived in walking distance from each other. They were like family. Now, it starts to get really creepy when her best friend plans a trip to New Orleans with her family, and she leaves her son with Rachel to babysit. Every single night, she would call her best friend on FaceTime so that she could say goodnight to her son, and she did this for 5 nights. On the 5th night, she calls to FaceTime her, and her best friend declines the call, and then she calls her back. Out of concern, she steps away, and she says, "Is everything okay?" And her best friend says, "No, some woman here just told me that I have something incredibly dark attached to me that's following me." Now, Rachel at this point is trying not to be superstitious, and she's like, "Listen, you're in New Orleans, like stuff like this happens all the time. People are trying to freak you out. It's just part of like the culture there." Unfortunately, this would not be the case. So 3 days later, her best friend gets home, and she goes over and brings her kids with her to her best friend's house to drop off her son, to have dinner and just to hang out. Shortly after she gets there, her friend pulls out a present for her. She got her a gift, and the gift is a voodoo doll, and she tells her that the woman that had told her that she had an attachment gave her this voodoo doll and said that this doll was a protector of children. And since Rachel had the kids, honestly more than she had her own son, she gave the doll to her to protect her son and her own son. And later on that night, she takes the voodoo doll and she hangs it up in her son's room, and she's thinking to herself, voodoo can't always be bad, right? Maybe sometimes it's good. So she leaves it in her son's room. She goes to bed. Later on that night, she wakes up to her son crying. This wasn't that odd though, because she breastfed, so she figured that he was just hungry. So she got up and she goes to get her son after she hears this baby crying, and her son is sound asleep. He's snoring. This really freaks her out, so she grabs her son and she goes back to bed. She lays him on her chest and she falls asleep. Then she wakes up a little bit later and she hears that crying again. She hears a baby crying, but there's no one else in the house, no other baby in the house except for her son. He is comfortably sleeping on her chest. She said that after this she could not go back to sleep. She was absolutely terrified at this point. And as she's terrified, about an hour later, she's laying in bed. She looks over and her closet door starts to open, and what does she see inside? She sees a small little child inside of her closet. She said that she normally doesn't get freaked out by this type of thing, but this one really freaked her out. She lost it. She calls her best friend. It's about 4 o'clock in the morning. She's like, "Hey, can you please come over? I'm freaked out." So her best friend comes over and they're just hanging out, chit-chatting on the couch. Her best friend then gets up to go get something, and her shirt kind of lifts up in the back, and Rachel notices that she has scratches on her back. So she lifts up her shirt and she sees that there's 3 long scratches on her best friend's back, and she's like, "What is this? Like, what is going on with you?" And she's like, "I don't know. I've had this really weird feeling the past few days. Like, I don't know what's going on with me." Now, after a lot of scares and a lot of just wonder of what's going on with this doll, she decides that the doll is actually not a bad thing. She thinks that whatever is in the house is actually protecting them. That's just how she feels at this point. But with her best friend is getting worse because she is waking up and nightly she has new scratches on her body. Now, this happens for a couple weeks. And just to note, Rachel is correct. The doll is protecting them, and we're going to find out why. So Rachel met this friend in high school, and she said that he was kind of the weird kid in school, and she sort of felt bad for him, so she befriended him, and they ended up actually being friends after high school for quite a while. She trusted this person very much. One day she is at home and she is sleeping, and she wakes up to her son screaming his head off. She opens up her eyes and she sees her friend, the man that she trusts, on her bed going at it with himself, if you know what I mean, and her pants are gone. She kicks him in the face, runs into her son's room, and her son has a bunch of pillows all over him. He was basically trying to smother her son. The weird thing was, though, is that her son was not awake. He was asleep. He was not the one screaming. So that scream woke her up and made her catch him in the act. She was able to save herself and her son, and she fully believes that this had everything to do with that voodoo doll that was hanging up in her son's room. And she sent me pictures of it. This is the picture of the voodoo doll. This right here, and then there's another one. So here's the other picture of the voodoo doll. So this is what it looks like. So she ends the story on kind of a good note, though. She did say that her friend Laura got help for whatever she was struggling with. I don't know what it is. She didn't tell me. And she believes that that spirit that is in that doll is watching over her and protecting her family to this day. Now, she did say that she fully trusted that person and she cannot believe that he was capable of doing something like that. But thank God she heard that screaming. So guys, here's my question for you. Do you think voodoo is bad, or do you think voodoo is good? Or do you think that there can be good and bad voodoo. What do you guys think? I want to know and she wants to know. Drop it in the comments. Also, tell me what you think happened here. This was a really interesting story. And by the way, my name is Kajsa. I give true scary stories on here every single night. If you like that, hit that follow button. I love you guys so, so much. I appreciate you with all my heart. You have no idea. Just one more thing. And what is that? Have a spooky night. I'll see you in the next one. Love you.
My haunted doll had a demonic attachment and it ended up giving me sleep paralysis, and then a demon choked me in my sleep. So stick with me here because there's a lot. This is Shirley, and Shirley is a rescue. One of my followers surrendered her to me because they had purchased a haunted doll about 2 years ago, ended up just keeping her in her closet for a while because her boyfriend didn't like her, and ended up giving her to me. Shirley unfortunately had a really traumatizing and difficult living life. She was a maid and was employed by somebody who was really abusive, and she couldn't afford to go anywhere else. They housed her and paid for her and gave her food, but they would also take advantage of her and beat her and hurt her in ways I can't talk about on TikTok. And this is part of a story that was passed down from her original keeper that I got her from, and also from the haunted doll collector that owned her prior to this. On top of that, I've had visions of kind of the pain that Shirley has endured as well, that once again I can't talk about on TikTok without it being, you know, heavily censored. One day Shirley had enough of her employer's abuse and decided to poison her employer. It didn't take long for the authorities to find out who it was, and they ended up executing Shirley for her crimes that she did not deserve to be executed for. So Shirley unfortunately had men controlling her in her living life and in her afterlife, which was really unfortunate. So Shirley had a lot of negativity just kind of stirring up around her, and a lot of sadness and a lot going on with her. So that kind of attracted a lot of negative things to latch on, not just to the doll, but to her spirit. So there wasn't a demon that was attached to her doll, it was attached to her spirit itself, and it was feeding off of her negativity. So when I welcomed Shirley into my home, I was welcoming this demon that was attached to her spirit as well. And one night that Shirley is sleeping in my bed with me, you know, she's my newest haunted doll, especially my newest negative. She's sleeping in my bed, and I'm waking up in the middle of the night and I can't breathe, and I'm not sure what's going on. I had never experienced sleep paralysis before, and so I was laying there and kind of just half awake, half asleep, not entirely understanding what's going on, but something is choking me and pushing down really hard on my neck. There is an actual physical arm, hand, something fleshy on my neck pushing down, right? I don't know if I could move my legs, but I could move my arms because I remember just trying to yank off whatever was on my neck, and that was like pushing down on it so hard. For some reason my eyes are closed this entire time. I think I can't exactly remember. It was all within a couple of seconds. And also my first thought was not sleep paralysis, it was that somebody was in my house, right? And like I was getting not good situation. I like legitimately cannot breathe at this point, and I, with all of my might, yank this whatever off of my neck as hard as I can, right, and pull it up. And as I look to see what it is, it's my own arm and my own tattoos. And I'm like, wait, was I just choking myself like that in my sleep? Excuse me? So I am like trying to comprehend what just happened, and I'm just kind of like, okay, so no one's in my house, that's a good thing. Figured out this is like a spiritual not great thing, that's not so good. We'll figure this out in the morning. And I just kind of went to bed and went to sleep, you know? Prior to this experience, I didn't exactly believe in sleep paralysis, and after this experience, I still don't. I think it's a demon that's attacking you in your sleep when you're really vulnerable in your subconscious mind. But you know, we're not going to talk about that right now. So the next morning I wake up and I cleanse my space and my house with some dragon's blood sage and then do a banishment spell. But like when I did that, it felt like I really pissed it off and it didn't work. And I was like, I don't know what to do now. I need help. So that's when Mallory comes in, and I ended up asking her for help and being like, hey, I can't get rid of this thing. Can you please help me? And it was almost, she was like, What? Yeah, sure. I mean, I thought this was like child's play for you. What are you doing? And then after like a couple of seconds after I had literally just asked her to get rid of it, the energy in the house was completely fine. Everyone felt happy, and like Shirley turned her bubble light on, and it was feeling good in the house again. But yeah, when in doubt, just ask a really trusted, light, pure spirit to help you get rid of nasty stuff and protect you. I love haunted dolls. It's a fun experience, I promise. It's not scary.
This girl named Paige DM'd me and she was like, my best friend and roommate bought a haunted doll off the internet and I need to know if I'm overreacting or if I need to convince her to get rid of this doll because they're still living with it. Paige and her roommate Tara have been best friends since high school. They were roommates in college and they moved together to the East Coast after college. So they've been roommates for about 8 years and they've always gotten along. They share a lot of things in common, including the love of horror movies. A few years ago, they watched the Conjuring movies or the Annabelle movies. And then Tara stumbled across a girl on TikTok who apparently has a bunch of these haunted dolls and communicates with them. I actually don't know if it was one girl or a few girls, but basically she gets on this side of TikTok, which is like these people communicating with these haunted dolls. And Tara becomes obsessed with getting one for her own, and she believes she has the gift and she can provide a good home for one of these haunted dolls that has been otherwise discarded. According to Tara, these dolls are not inherently evil, they are just misunderstood. So Tara finds a seller online. The seller is from Denton, Texas, and has a few dolls listed on an auction website. One doll specifically catches Tara's eye. It's a doll named Lila. It's a porcelain doll from the 1950s or 60s, and it was rescued from an estate sale, and it comes with a tag attached that says 1776. This seller is obviously trying to appeal to people who collect haunted dolls, and actually Paige sent me the listing description. I'm going to include that here so you can pause to read if you'd like. But Tara wants it, she bids on it, she gets it, and it arrives within 6 business days. Immediately, this doll gives Paige the heebie-jeebies, and Tara insists on keeping her in the living room, and Paige is like, can you keep her in your room? I don't really want her watching me, I don't like her eyes. And Tara's just like, oh, so you're already shutting her out, this is what she's used to, and she starts talking about her almost as if she's a real person. And Paige is just like, I don't want a creepy doll around. And Tara's like, fine, I'll keep her in my room. So she does, and she's really excited about it. The day after she receives this doll, Paige wakes up and she goes out in the front room, and there is the doll sitting on the couch, and she's like, oh my god, Tara. Tara wakes up and she's like, why is the doll on the couch? And Tara's like, haha, isn't it funny? And she obviously was playing a joke on her. Over the next few weeks, Tara starts bringing the doll out more and more. She starts bringing it on errands with them, to the farmer's market, to the mall, to wherever they go. And Paige doesn't like it because she's like, this is weird. People are going to be looking at you. They're like, why is this adult woman carrying around this porcelain doll that's creepy? And so she says, well, can we just leave her in the car whenever they're out somewhere? And Tara becomes like really defensive. And she's like, I don't like the fact that you don't want her around. Like, I talked to you about this before I got her. There's a person in there. There's an entity in there, and we need to respect her. This kind of surprised Paige because she really thought that Tara was buying it as like a novelty item. She really didn't think that she was actually going to be trying to communicate with this doll and respect the doll as a person. Tara wakes up super early one morning. She asks Paige if she wants to go hiking with her and the doll Lila. Paige is like, why are we taking the doll hiking? And she's like, well, I had a dream and she told me that she wanted to go hiking. She wanted to see the woods. She wants to show me what happened to her. And Paige is like, this is getting out of hand. But she's like, whatever, I like hiking. So they went, and at one point on the hike, Tara stops and she's just staring at this tree, and Paige is like, what are you doing? And she's like, Lila says this is what the tree looks like that she's buried underneath. And for some reason, when she said it, it just like didn't seem like she was joking. She said, like, Paige said, like, all the hair on her neck was standing up. Like, it was just creepy. And so she was just like, are you being serious right now? And Tara's like, yeah, she talks to me in my dreams. And then she tells Paige, oh, if you want to get a doll, it will probably talk to you in dreams too. We can look online like they had other dolls. And Paige is just like, absolutely not. This pattern continues, and Tara is just constantly talking about things Lila says to her in a dream. There's nothing really inherently like creepy other than the fact that Tara is now talking as if Lila is talking through her. When they're out with other people, Tara finds a way to inject Lila into the conversation as if she's a person. When they meet strangers, Tara will be like, oh, well, my friend Lila said, and in the back of her head, Paige knows this is a doll. She's getting concerned as a friend and as a roommate, and she's just like, she's never seemed to exhibit any signs of like mental problems before. But at this point, I feel like it's bordering psychosis. At this point, Paige does not believe that Tara is communicating with Lila. She just looks at it as like a hobby that Tara is taking a little bit too seriously, until one day she loses a locket that she's had since she was a baby. She said she does go on a lot of like hot girl walk. She checked at the gym, the lost and found. She checked at her work. Like, it's just nowhere. So it's missing for a few weeks. And one day Tara wakes up and she comes in and she goes, I know where your locket is. And Paige is like, oh my God, did you find it? And she's like, no, but Lila told me where it is. She's like, walk with me. So they leave the apartment. They go for this walk along one of Paige's normal hot girl walk. Tara just stops when they're about 3/4 of a mile from the house, and she goes into this little ditch next to the sidewalk and she starts overturning rocks, and there in the dirt is her locket. And Paige is just like, oh my God, how did you know my locket was here? And Tara's like, I told you, Lila told me in a dream. She showed me where it was. And Paige is like flabbergasted because she's like, how would she know? She says she still doesn't believe that she's talking to this doll, but she can't make sense of it in her brain. At one point, Paige starts talking to this new guy. They've been going on some dates. They met on some app. He stays over at the apartment one night. Tara wakes up in the morning after he leaves and she comes in and she says, Lila said that guy is evil and he has evil intentions for you. At this point, Paige has had enough. This turns into a full-blown fight and she basically calls Tara crazy. She decides she's going to get rid of the doll. So that night, I don't know if Tara was asleep or if she was out, but Paige goes in and she takes the doll. She says in retrospect, she knows it was wrong because it's technically her property, but she decided she was going to take it. She went a few apartment complexes over and she left it in the dumpster. You can probably guess what happens next, which is Tara wakes up and she knows exactly where the doll is. She goes and retrieves it and comes back and is like, why did you throw her in the dumpster? And Paige said she didn't know what to do, so she lied. And she was like, I didn't do that. And Tara was like, yes, you did. I know you did. I saw it in my dream. Lila showed me. And again, she is flabbergasted because she doesn't know how Tara knows this. Luckily, the girls have been friends long enough where they were able to smooth everything over. Tara eventually just asked Paige, like, hey, can you just please respect this? Like, this is my hobby, but Lila has also become a friend of mine. Like, just please respect her living with us. Paige said that she knows she was wrong in certain aspects of this situation, and she apologized to Tara and to Lila at Tara's request. She said she would respect her from now on, but she still doesn't believe that there's an entity in Lila. She says she doesn't feel anything inherently evil from Lila, except for right after she threw her away, one of the things that creeps her out was Tara said, well, she's mad at you now and you need to apologize. So their names have been changed because Paige said that Tara does not know she's sharing this story. She is on TikTok, so fingers crossed she won't see this before Paige is able to address it properly with her. But she said she was genuinely curious to see what other people had to say. Like, what would you do in her situation? Because she doesn't know if Tara is going down like a dark mental path or if she should just leave it alone. Keep sending me your spooky, scary stories. I also have spooky, scary story time mugs now on my website. You can hit that link in my bio for those.
Just remembered a scary story that my childhood friend's mom told me. It's super scary and I just thought I'd share it real quick, okay? So her mom was telling us about how when she was a child, she lived in the Philippines. I'm not going to give any more information than that, but she grew up in the Philippines and there was like a house on the end of the street that all of the kids were terrified of, and it was an empty house. But all the kids were super scared. They said it was like a haunted house, that bad things happened there, blah, blah, blah. So one day, her and her friends, being brave and bored, they wanted to go explore it. So they work up the courage, they open the front door, and it's creepy, but it's empty. She said it was like a little bit messy, there were spider webs, you know, kind of what you expect of a creepy, empty house. Okay, so she said that she was in a group of like 4 or 5 kids, and all the other kids were older than her, and they wanted to go explore more into the house, but she was too afraid. So they were like, okay, yeah, whatever, you can just wait here by the front door, and we're gonna go explore. So she's just in the entryway, the front door is behind her. Straight ahead of her is a stairway that goes up to the 2nd floor, and then I think she said to the left went into a kitchen, and then to the right went into the living room, and the other kids had went into the living room area. So she's just standing in the entranceway, and she hears footsteps on the stairwell, but nobody went up the stairs. They were still on the 1st floor. So she's freaking out, she's waiting, she's looking up at the stairs. She's little too, like she's really young, so she doesn't really have any like survival instinct. So she's watching to see what is making these steps on the stairwell. They're slowly coming down. She hears it. She said it went really slow, like dunk, dunk, dunk. Like each step was like painful, like one at a time. Finally, she can see what's walking down the steps, and it is a doll. It is a 3-foot doll. Do you remember those? The 3-foot plastic dolls? Yeah. So it's a doll, and its legs are stiff. It can't even bend its legs, and it's going thunk, 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 down each step, coming down the stairs towards her. When she told me that, I damn near lost my mind. So as she starts screaming, she freaks out, she runs out, everyone else in there starts screaming, they all leave. Moral of the story, they never go back, obviously. So yeah, a plastic doll, a 3-foot plastic doll, come to life, can't even bend its legs, and thunking down the stairs. No thanks. No thanks. Okay, thanks for watching. Bye.